Hello there, fellow travelers and dreamers. Welcome to a very special episode. In this series, I had the courage to do the podcast myself instead of having my usual co-host Polly handle the microphone duties. Today we're going to journey through the wonderful world of European castle tourism, sustainable travel, and the delicate art of preserving fairy tales for future generations. I'm Glenda, your host, and I'm speaking to you from my experience as someone who's fallen completely in love with Bavaria's castle country through 3 distinct visits over several years. Picture this. You're standing before the most Instagram-famous castle in the world, surrounded by 5,999 other people doing exactly the same thing. Welcome to Neuschwanstein Castle on a summer afternoon, where fairy tale dreams meet over-tourism nightmare. But here's what makes today's episode special. I'm not just talking about these castles as a travel expert or tourism professional. I'm sharing with you as someone who's been there multiple times, made mistakes, learned lessons, and keeps going back because the magic never gets old. Today we're diving into Bavaria's stunning castle region, where 4 of King Ludwig II's magnificent palaces just became UNESCO World Heritage Sites in July 2025. But here's the twist. These aren't just pretty Instagram backdrops anymore. They're now case studies in how to manage tourism without destroying the very magic that draws the people. So grab your lederhosen, settle in with a cup of coffee, and maybe some Bavarian cheesecake if you can find it. And let's explore how Bavaria is revolutionizing castle tourism through the eyes of someone who's witnessed its evolution firsthand. King Ludwig's legacy. Before I dive into my personal journey, let me set the scene with the man behind the magic. King Ludwig II, dubbed the Fairy Tale King, wasn't exactly what you'd call a practical ruler. While his ministers worried about politics, Ludwig was busy designing impossibly romantic castles inspired by Wagner operas and medieval fantasies. Between 1869 and his mysterious death in 1886, he created 4 architectural masterpieces. Neuschwanstein, perched dramatically on an alpine crag, featuring flushing toilets that were revolutionary for 1869, an internal telephone system, and throne rooms that never saw a king. Serenity, his Bavarian Versailles, on an island in Lake Kyme. Linderhof, the only castle completed in his lifetime with its magical artificial Venus grotto. And Cheesecake, a charming alpine lodge at 1,800 meters elevation. Here's the irony. Ludwig built these as private refuges, not tourist attractions. He even ordered them destroyed after his death. Thankfully, nobody listened, because these follies now attract 1.7 million visitors annually. My first Bavarian adventure. Now, let me share how I first discovered this magic. After an amazing time in Paris and Salzburg, my husband and I were craving a true Bavarian experience. I mean, living in Atlanta, our closest taste of Bavaria is Helen, Georgia, which is adorable, but not exactly authentic. We took the train from Paris to Munich, and let me tell you, driving that distance would be madness. The train is the civilized way to travel across Europe. From Munich, we joined a tour bus because, honestly, when you're first-time visitors with limited time, tours can be incredibly useful for orientation. Our first stop was Linderhof Palace, Ludwig's homage to his idol, the French Sun King Louis XIV. Before even entering the palace, we were mesmerized by this completely mechanical fountain. Just like Louis loved fountains, so did Ludwig. The gardens were incredible. I could only imagine how magnificent they must have been in Ludwig's time. Inside, photography wasn't allowed, but the Hall of Mirrors was unforgettable. Now, it wasn't nearly the size of Versailles' famous hall, but these large mirrors with gold leaf facing each other created infinite reflections that made the room feel enormous and absolutely magnificent. If you haven't been to Versailles yet, you can't really compare. But if you have, it's like Versailles shrunk to 1/16th size, yet still overwhelmingly decorative. The Oberammergau cheesecake tradition begins. After the palace tour, our bus took us to the beautiful town of Oberammergau, famous for its passion play and those incredible painted houses with fairy tale scenes covering the walls. This is where my Bavarian cheesecake tradition began. I've always believed that food creates lasting memories of places, so I ordered this enormous slice of traditional Bavarian cheesecake and coffee. The piece was huge. I couldn't even finish it. But that first taste of authentic Bavarian hospitality in Oberammergau became the foundation of what would become our ritual on every return visit. Journey to the Fairy Tale Castle. From Oberammergau, we continued to the main event, the Neuschwanstein Castle. The scenic mountain drive felt like stepping into a Brothers Grimm fairy tale. I kept expecting to see Hansel and Gretel or Little Red Riding Hood around every corner. When we arrived in Füssen, we passed by Neuschwanstein Castle, where Ludwig was raised. This is where the Mad King developed his love for Wagner's operas and theater. Fun fact: there were always rumors about Ludwig's sexuality, which was quite scandalous for his time. Here's something crucial I learned on that first visit. Don't try to see both castles in one rushed trip. It was around 2 p.m., and walking between the two would have meant several miles back and forth. We chose the most famous one, Neuschwanstein, positioned dramatically on the other side of the mountains. The two castles practically face each other, connected by this stunning bridge that gives you the view of Neuschwanstein Castle. The reality of castle climbing. To reach the castle, you have 3 options, and let me give you the honest truth about each one. You can hike up the trail. It's about 1.5 kilometers uphill on a paved path, taking 30 to 40 minutes, and you might need to rest along the way. Trust me. There's also a horse-drawn carriage for €7 uphill, but it still drops you 450 meters from the entrance, requiring a 10 to 15-minute walk. My strong recommendation? Take the shuttle bus for €3 uphill. It runs every 20 minutes without a fixed schedule and drops you at the viewpoint near Marienbrücke, that famous bridge where all the iconic photos are taken. You'll still have a final walk to the entrance, but it's much more manageable. Inside the unfinished masterpiece. Our tour guide was incredibly informative, but had zero tolerance for tardiness. We actually left some people behind after waiting 20 minutes. I completely understood, though. When you have tickets for specific times and buses waiting, there's simply no flexibility. The castle itself was never completed when King Ludwig died. The government took on finishing it, and interestingly, it provided jobs for people in the region for 2 decades. Ludwig had demolished medieval twin castles that once stood on this site. The construction was so expensive that Ludwig borrowed heavily and even threatened suicide if creditors tried to take over his palaces. Even today, the castle requires constant maintenance and restoration work. The numbers reality. Let me share some staggering numbers that put this in perspective. Neuschwanstein alone receives 1.5 million visitors per year, with up to 8,000 people on peak days. They run 120 guided tours daily with military precision timing. Each tour lasts only 30 minutes, with a maximum of 45 people per group. That's basically moving an entire small city through a 19th century castle every single day. The overnight train adventure. Our second Bavaria adventure was completely different. We took an overnight train from Amsterdam to Munich. There's something magical about waking up in the German countryside. This time, we rented a car for complete flexibility and decided to explore beyond the tourist circuit. Our first stop was Mittenwald, and oh my goodness, what a discovery. This alpine town sits in a valley surrounded by dramatic mountain peaks, with traditional painted houses that look like something from a fairy tale. The town is famous for violin making and has this incredible backdrop of the Karwendel Mountains. We spent hours just wandering the streets, admiring the traditional frescoes on the buildings, and breathing in that crisp mountain air. The full circle moment in Oberammergau. From Mittenwald, we drove to Oberammergau for another cheesecake, because traditions must be honored. And here's where magic happened. We were sitting at the same restaurant where our tour group had stopped 2 years earlier, enjoying our enormous slices of cheesecake when I spotted a familiar face. It was our original tour guide from that first trip, still leading groups, still passionate about Bavaria's castles. We approached him and took a photo together. He was absolutely amazed that he had inspired us to venture into Bavaria on our own and return multiple times. He said most tourists come once and never return. But here we were, having fallen so in love with the region that we'd become independent explorers. A week in the Bavarian paradise. After our castle nostalgia tour, we spent an entire week in Oberstoffen at the Moon D Hilton Resort. Oberstoffen is this charming spa town in the Allgäu Alps, perfect for exploring the broader region. We used it as our base to discover Bregenz and Lindau, our introduction to my now favorite lake, Lake Constance, and really immerse ourselves in Bavarian culture beyond the famous castle. This longer stay taught us something important. Bavaria rewards slow travel, and from Oberstoffen you can also venture towards Lake Constance and even cross into Switzerland. We visited the very famous Abbey in St. Gallen, with its incredible Baroque cathedral and ancient library containing manuscripts dating back over 1,000 years. When you're not rushing between tourist sites, you discover the authentic rhythm of alpine life across borders. We found local festivals, traditional restaurants that weren't in guidebooks, and viewpoints that tour buses never reach. 3 generations of castle love. Our most recent visit brought a new dimension. We drove from Frankfurt with our daughter Simone, who has inherited our travel bug, and our son Zach, who absolutely loves mountains. This generational experience added such richness to the journey. The drive from Frankfurt through the German countryside was spectacular, and having the kids along meant seeing everything through fresh eyes. Simone was fascinated by the history and architecture, while Zach was primarily interested in the mountaineering possibilities. the village lake discovery. When we reached the castle area, Simone and Zach decided to make the full hike up to Neuschwanstein Castle. Their young legs and mountain enthusiasm carried them easily up those trails. Meanwhile, Rashid and I discovered something wonderful that we'd missed on previous visits. We found ourselves with time to truly enjoy the village itself. We settled at a cafe for our traditional cheesecake, and this time it felt different. It was later in the afternoon, so there weren't too many people around. The pace was relaxed, almost meditative. After our cheesecake ritual, we walked down to the Alpsee, the beautiful lake right in the village. The Alpsee is this gorgeous alpine lake with crystal clear water reflecting the surrounding mountains. We sat by the shore watching the light change on the water while our kids conquered the castle above. It was such a peaceful moment. The contrast between the tourist chaos higher up the mountain and this serene lakeside setting was remarkable. Evolving perspective. What struck me about this visit was how our appreciation had deepened. We weren't rushing to see everything anymore. We were savoring details, noticing things we'd missed before, and most importantly, we were creating new traditions. The cheesecake ritual had evolved from necessity during a tour stop to a deliberate celebration of place. Watching Simone and Zach experience these castles for the first time reminded me of that initial wonder, but through the lens of someone who now understood the complexity behind the beauty. We weren't just tourists anymore. We had become temporary locals with our favorite spots and routines. Transportation strategies from experience. After 3 visits using different approaches, I can share what actually works. The train from major European cities is absolutely the way to go for first visits. It's civilized, scenic, and eliminates driving stress. For deeper exploration, renting a car opens up incredible possibilities, but plan for at least 3 to 4 days to make it worthwhile. Tours are perfect for orientation and time-limited visits, but don't let them be your only Bavaria experience. Use them to understand the layout and identify what you want to explore more deeply on return visits. Booking and timing reality. Here's the crucial practical advice. Book your castle tickets online at least 2 days in advance, but ideally weeks ahead during peak season. Arrive at least 1 hour before your tour time to collect tickets, and remember that tour guides will not wait. We've seen people left behind, and it's heartbreaking. For the best experience, aim for morning tours when crowds are lighter, and definitely build in time for that Marienbrücke bridge viewpoint. Just know that it closes in winter due to ice, so have backup plans. The hidden gem strategy. Don't limit yourself to just Neuschwanstein. Linderhof is absolutely stunning and usually less crowded. Hohenschwangau offers fascinating insights into Ludwig's childhood. And those painted villages like Oberammergau and Mittenwald are magical destinations in their own right. The key is building relationships with places, not just checking them off lists. Find your own cheesecake cafe, discover your favorite viewpoint, create your own traditions. Think of seasonal considerations. We've visited in different seasons, and each has its character. Spring and fall offer perfect weather with fewer crowds. Summer brings long days but peak tourist chaos. Winter creates a mystical atmosphere with snow-covered castles, though some viewpoints close. Don't let weather deter you. Some of our most memorable moments happened during light rain or early snow. The castles take on different personalities in different conditions. UNESCO recognition and its impact. When these castles achieved UNESCO World Heritage status in July 2025, it marked a turning point. This isn't just recognition. It's a commitment to sustainable management. Bavaria now has international oversight, ensuring these treasures survive their own popularity. From my multiple visits, I've witnessed the evolution of crowd management. Timed entries, improved transportation, better visitor flow, it's working. The experience has become more organized without losing its magic. What Bavaria gets right. Bavaria's approach balances preservation with access beautifully. They're investing in infrastructure that supports tourism while protecting the sites. Solar panels on palace roofs, climate-resilient pathways, efficient shuttle systems, they're making fairy tales environmentally responsible. Most importantly, they're promoting dispersed tourism. Instead of everyone cramming into Neuschwanstein, they're highlighting the entire region's treasures. Villages like Mittenwald and Oberammergau benefit from increased attention while reducing pressure on the main sites. The community perspective. What I've noticed over our visits is how local communities are adapting. Restaurant owners in Oberammergau remember repeat visitors. Shopkeepers in Fusen appreciate when tourists learn basic German greetings. There's a genuine pride in sharing their heritage when visitors show respect and interest beyond just photos. This relationship building is crucial. Tourism works best when it's a cultural exchange, not just consumption. The evolution of a Bavaria lover. Looking back on 3 distinct visits, from that first tour bus experience to our latest family adventure by the Alpsee, I realized Bayern has taught me how to travel better. Each visit built on the previous one, revealing new layers of beauty, history, and culture. We started as tourists and evolved into temporary locals with favorite restaurants, preferred routes, and seasonal rhythm. This transformation happened because we gave ourselves permission to return, to go deeper, to move beyond the Instagram highlight. Planning your own Bavaria journey. If this episode has inspired you to explore Bavaria's castle country, remember that the most magical visits are the ones that help preserve the magic for future generations. Plan ahead, travel thoughtfully, and most importantly, leave room for discovery. Book your tickets, pack comfortable shoes, bring patience for crowds, and definitely find your own Cheesecake cafe. Whether you're planning your first visit or your 5th, approach Bavaria with curiosity and respect. That's a wrap on our journey through Bavaria's fairy tale transformation. Want more travel inspiration and castle adventures? Visit our Global Citizen blog at therookandqueen.com or check out our YouTube channel, Global Citizen Travels, for visual journeys through Europe's most stunning destinations. Got castle stories or questions about planning your own Bavaria trip? Share them with us. And if you do make it to Oberammergau, have a slice of that enormous cheesecake for me.